Have you ever changed your mind about a whiskey? I certainly have. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So, in my whiskey journey so far, there have certainly been bottles that I picked up, tasted, experienced, and ultimately didn't love. Or had reservations about, wasn't sure it was worth the price, wasn't sure I would enjoy that kind of profile or would want to explore more whiskeys like that in the future. Ultimately, today I've come to a list of three. I want to keep it small and really talk about each of these and why I've sort of flipped my opinion. But these three I've definitely changed my mind about. And when I say changed my mind, this video in particular, I'm talking about ones that I hesitated on at first, but then came to enjoy quite a bit more, which is good. That's the positive way of changing your mind. The other way, I guess, could be valid too. Maybe you've had that experience of thinking you loved a whiskey and then coming back to it and being like, oh, this is actually not very good. Luckily, the story here is that these ones got better over time for me. Part of that is I've changed. Part of that is I've grown to experience and enjoy a lot more different profiles than maybe I did at the beginning of my journey. So let's talk about these three bottles and in particular why I changed my mind on them. So first off, we start with a standard bottle that because of the price point and the proof point, a couple other factors I wasn't sure on, but now I do really enjoy it, and that is Michter's MIUS1 Bourbon. So this is a $45 bottle. It's a standard bottle from Michter's. $45 is a little more pricey than a lot of other budget options. This kind of takes into that category of not quite so budget. It's also lower proof. This is, 91.4 proof. A lot of Michter stuff is lower proof. So it felt like at first, I don't know if I'm getting my bang for my buck here. Tasted it, wasn't wowed at first, right? Then what I did was put all the Michter standard products in a blind matchup, which I actually did a video on, and this came out on top. And I think that was just enough for me to start to shift my mindset. I had a little bias against it, and then I realized it's actually got a lot to enjoy. Good solid brown sugar, good cherry, a little bit of an apple note as well. It's just a well-balanced standard bourbon. Michter's has also grown on me a ton as a distillery. I still struggle with the fact that they're so non-transparent. We literally don't know much about anything that they're doing in terms of the whiskey, how old it is, things like that. But so much of what I've gotten from them has turned out to be phenomenal. So I've started to trust the brand a little bit more. And the more I come back to this bourbon, I do think that's a pretty dang good standard sipper. So definitely changed my mind, and it also shows you the power of blind tastings to really reveal flavors that maybe you're too biased to see or that you just hadn't accounted for before. So that's bottle number one on the list, Michter's MIUS1 Bourbon. So bottle number two goes toward that I wasn't sure I liked profiles like this, and a whole category of whiskey that I struggled to like at first, but now I've fully embraced, and that's turned my opinion around. That is Sagamore Double Oak Rye. So I tend to love double oaked products because of the extra sweetness it imparts, but I struggled with rye getting into my whiskey journey and the harshness and the just different flavors that it can sometimes present, and that was the case here. So I described it over and over again. I did a review on it, I've revisited it, and it had this pledge cleaner note, like a lemon citrus, but that felt fabricated and like a little bit astringent to me. That's probably, a result of not really liking the rye nose and palate experience at first. Now that I go back to it, it certainly has lemon citrus, but I'm feeling a lot more invited in by it and ready to embrace it than I was, say, 2 years ago. Yeah, it's really nice. Vanilla, brown sugar, and then a ton of that lemon herbal quality. But the brown butter, brown sugar experience has really turned up because of the double oak. Let's taste it. Cheers. Yeah, it's really, really good. So my favorite rye I've ever had, probably one of my favorite bottles in my whole collection, is the Michter's 10 rye that I have. 2023 release. This reminds me of that. It's closer to that than I remembered. A little bit of a savory note, more of a nice buttercream frosting kind of experience in here as well. That's really, really good. And at first, I just couldn't quite get past the rye experience, and it was so foreign to me that I labeled it as something I didn't like, or maybe even something that wasn't that good, even though I had heard a lot of great recommendations around it. Now that I come back to it as a little bit more experienced in rye, somebody who's really actually come to love rye, by golly, it's pretty good. Wow. I'm even shocked right now. Just, it's still changing my mind, still reminding me and inviting me in to experience it more and more and saying, hey, I'm actually pretty dang good, which is awesome. Okay, lots of rambling in this video. Sorry about that. Let's go into the third bottle, the last bottle on this list. Changed my mind about kind of a whole expression, a whole series in whiskey, and that is Booker's. So this is Charlie's batch. This is the first batch from 2023, and it's a phenomenal, phenomenal whiskey. I had the Pinky's batch from 2022. I tasted Booker's at a bar or two before I bought one. Honestly, way too hot to handle at first. And I think that happens a lot. Just Booker's is high proof, but it's not just high proof. It embraces its spice. It's known for being punchy in the mouth whiskey. And at first I really struggled with that. Pinky's batch I don't think has quite the depth of flavor as the Charlie's batch. I also have the Mighty Fine batch from 2023 I think is really good. So the story here is, one, I learned to embrace the really punchiness of Booker's and to see and experience the flavors underneath the punchiness and to let that turn some of the dials of the flavors up. But it also reminded me and kept me focused on, like, some batches of Booker's are going to be better than others. I feel like the ceiling for Booker's is really high. Like, if you get a great batch of Booker's, it can be really, really good whiskey. You get a mediocre batch, it's okay for the price. If you get one that you're just not loving, or that the profile's a little bit off, or it's too spicy and not enough depth of flavor, it can fall a little short. This one in particular, Charlie's batch, totally turned my mind around, and I was like, whoa, even though that's high proof and spicy, the flavors are all there and I am thoroughly enjoying it. So this is one that changed my mind about Booker's and got me thinking about how when you get a great Booker's batch with that heat, it can just be a match made in heaven because the flavors are there and they're all turned up to like 10 or 11 on the flavor dial, which is great. Okay, everybody, I think that's gonna do it. These are the three bottles that, yeah, they've, in some way I've changed my mind about them, or in some way they've influenced me and helped me change my mind, particularly the Booker's, around just a whole, expression of whiskey. So would love to hear in the comments below if you've had any whiskeys like this where at first you didn't love them, then they changed your mind. And what was your experience like? While you're at it, please consider hitting the like button on this video. That's what gets it out to the most people. And then if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel, joining us for the rest of 2024 and beyond. Till I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey. Don't be afraid of the whiskeys that maybe you could change your mind on, and cheers.